Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jason Kong, and we are the Team Sprout. And it's truly an honor to present to you guys in the third Waseda Korea University Global Presentation Contest. And as the term Sprout says, it symbolizes the beginning of life. And as the name says, we want to bring positive change to Korean society. And today we're going to talk about something that is very important to Korean society, which is entrepreneurship. Now, there have been lots of definitions about entrepreneurship. We use this word every day, but are we able to pin down what it actually means? So let's look over some pictures that remind us of entrepreneurship. It's a rare photo to see them together. That's Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, who pioneered the personal computer industry. Jerry Yang and David Filo, who established Yahoo. Now, Yahoo had its heydays in late 1990s and early 2000s, but it's not doing well so nowadays. You might say these entrepreneurs are a little bit outdated or old, so let's look at the entrepreneurs under perspective of 2014. Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook in his dormitory. Sergey Brin, who created Google and revolutionized the web search portal. Or Josh Cohen, who created WhatsApp mobile application and sold it to Facebook for $19 billion. Now, if you look at these examples, we might think that entrepreneurship equals startup, but Team Sprout doesn't believe so. We think there's so much to entrepreneurship. So let's look at some academic definitions. Joseph Schumpeter and David McKellen said, entrepreneurs are risk takers. They're innovators. Peter Drucker and Howard Stevenson and Mr. Shapiro said, entrepreneurs take risks. They pursue opportunities. So to take best out of all these examples and definitions, Team Sprout has come up with our own definition of entrepreneurship, that is, taking risk to grab one's opportunity through means of innovation. So under this new definition of Team Sprout, we believe everyone could be entrepreneurs. Even children who are selling lemonade at a lemonade stand could be entrepreneurs. Or a game company who created a global game, Angry Birds, could be entrepreneurs because they're taking risk to grab one's opportunity. So we think entrepreneurship spirit is very important to a country or a nation. It drives the country to be more innovative, it drives the country to be more creative, and it drives the country to go to the next step. And apparently President Park of South Korea thinks the same way. Now the lady on the left, the 11th president of South Korea, by the time she was elected, the global economy and domestic economy situation did not look so good. Let's look at some numbers. The global economy real growth rate has been dropping from 4.5% to 3.5% throughout 2013. It was due to Eurozone crisis or exchange rate crisis or, of course, North Korea crisis. So the global economy was very unstable. And if you look inside Korea, the potential growth rate has been dropping. And it even hit 0% in the third quarter of 2012. So we can say that domestic Korean economy was not doing so well as well. In case of employment, the employment growth has been slowing down as well. The overall general number of the jobs have been increasing. However, the employment growth has been slowing down. So to overcome all these economic setbacks, what President Park Geun-hye came up with is creative economy. Now, to explain what creative economy is, we have to go back to the past a little bit. There has been an agricultural revolution, which was the first wave. Then there was an industrial revolution, which was the second wave. Then there was an informational revolution, the third wave. This is the era that we are living right now, informational economy. However, now there's been time for us to greet the fourth wave, which is creative revolution, the creative economy. So I'll try to explain the concept a little bit. So President Park Geun-hye, through trying to pursue creative economy, she tries to pursue economic development and higher employment rate. And there are four key concepts of creative economy. So basically, creative economy is all about creative human resources, creative young generation coming up with creative ideas. And when these creative ideas are developed, they become creative business. And when these business are accumulated, they become creative industries. However, the vital point to achieve creative economy and to achieve all these 4 points is entrepreneurship spirit. And now my partner Sang-Yup Han will explain why the entrepreneurship spirit is a problem in South Korea.
Thank you. Well, before we go on to the next step, The important question now is, are we ready to take the next step? Are we ready to greet the new era? Well, sadly, it seems not. This is an index, entrepreneurship index, compiled by Samsung Economic Research Institution. As you can see from the graph, the index peaked in the 1970s, and since then, the entrepreneurship spirit in Korea has been depressed for a long time, and now it stands at its lowest level. So where is all the entrepreneurial spirit that was so dominant in Korea in the 1970s? Why are we not seeing these success stories of these entrepreneurs like Chung Ju-young, who started off nothing and founded Hyundai Group? Well, this graph might explain why. When the economy is underdeveloped, when people are so poor, we usually see a high level of entrepreneurship. But as the economy develops, as people get more affluent, they become more conservative. They refuse to take risk. Over the last several decades, Korea has witnessed tremendous economic development. However, the Team Sprout is concerned that maybe at the expense of this economic development, we all became cowards or risk-averse society. So let's look at these graphs. What do you think are the most preferred jobs for South Korean high school students? 24% public servant, 17% doctor, 16% educator. But only 9% said they want to become businessmen. What about university students? They say stability is the most important factor when it comes to choosing a job, even ahead of income and their own interest. This is quite alarming, because if we keep resisting to get out of this comfort zone, it's very likely that we're going to be stuck at the status quo for a long, long time. So, from now on, the Team Sprout would like to introduce you ways to lead our society toward a more lively and innovative society. So the first one is venture ecosystem. Here by ecosystem, I mean all these components well-connected, working hand in hand. Just like our mother's ecosystem, in order for one component to be healthy, all the other components around it should be also healthy. However, we found these two broken bridges in Korea that make the whole system malfunction. So in order to revive this system, we need to fix these bridges. So let's look at them one by one. The first one is the one between potential entrepreneurs and startup. Actually, there are many brilliant young people in our society with great ideas. But many of them actually hesitate and even give up on creating their businesses, mainly due to fear of failure. So as a team, we came up with an idea to alleviate some of those fears by sharing risk altogether through bankruptcy fund. In order for entrepreneurs to start businesses and to grow businesses, they need money, they need investment. So there are many different types of venture investment, such as angel fund, which invest in the early stage of venture companies, and then comes Series A, B, C as companies grow. However, the problem is that entrepreneurs, thank you, it's good that we had some break before we move on to a really tricky part. Okay. So I basically explained that entrepreneurs need money, investment to grow their businesses. But the problem is that these entrepreneurs can access to these funds only when their businesses are doing well. So due to high risky profile of venture companies, when their businesses are doing not so good, it's extremely hard to get funding from these investors. So our bankruptcy fund will target those venture companies and entrepreneurs. Okay? So this bankruptcy fund will work as a last resort by giving them a second chance. So bankruptcy fund will be very similar to this website called Kickstarter, which is a social crowdfunding platform. Like this platform, bankruptcy fund will work as a platform that all the list of venture companies under financial stresses are listed so that investors can easily search for and invest in them. Okay, the next broken bridge is the one between startups and merger and acquisition or initial public offering. We call this exit channels. Because investors need to exit the company they invested in to realize the return. However, those exit channels are not readily available in South Korea, so many investors still rely on private selling. On the contrary, in the US, whose venture ecosystem is much stronger than us, the market for venture M&A and IPO is much larger than us. This means basically that making money by investing in venture companies is much, much harder in South Korea than in the United States. And that's why we lag far behind the United States in terms of venture investment. We only spend 0.12% of our GDP on venture investment, while the United States spends triple of that. Especially after the venture boom crashed in the early 2000s, venture investment in Korea is practically dead. So, how can we solve this problem? The solution is really easy, because the symptoms and the reasons are quite obvious. We have to get rid of all the absurd regulations that hamper the growth of M&A, venture M&A and IPO. For example, if you want to acquire a company, venture company in Korea, you have to pay as much as 50% for tax. 50%. Under this harsh regulatory environment, the case of Facebook acquiring WhatsApp for $19 billion is never going to happen in South Korea. So far, I have explained how to strengthen our venture ecosystem, mainly from financial perspective. But what's more important than that is once you have this healthy ecosystem, not only money, but also these entrepreneurs with great ideas, experience, expertise, circulates around the circle, carrying and making the whole system even more stronger. However, this alone is not enough, because the fundamental foundation of this whole system is human beings. So from now on, my partner Jason will going to continue with last piece of our solution.
Okay, I know you guys must be distracted from all the noise and all the break, but now I'll try to provide a second solution, which is education. So it's kind of obvious that Korean students are not receiving enough entrepreneurship education. Let's look at the elementary school first, from first grade to sixth grade. I'm not sure if you could see it properly, but this is the mandatory education program for elementary school students. And if you see them, all the subjects are very fundamental subjects: math, science, Korean, English, but you see no entrepreneurship whatsoever. However, it's been studied by lots of scholars that teaching entrepreneurship spirit in young ages is very important. Let's look at some examples. So our Team Sprout's goal for elementary school or young generation or young students is to spring up kidpreneurs, which is kids who are entrepreneurs. Now, if you look at the first sentence, Jensen Bergman spent weeks preparing to pitch his team's business idea to investors. Well, fancy, right? Guess how old Jensen is? He's only 9 years old. If you look at the kid in the orange shirt, he has a name tag of Jensen. Now, another example. This is a boo-boo goo. It's a paint-on bandage. So instead of attaching a bandage to a wound, you just paint it on like a female manicure. And it's, there's lots of colors, and it's waterproof, and it's non-latex, so it's very safe, and it's called very innovative. And it's been launched in the United States for 6 months, and guess who the creator is? It's a lady right here, 6-year-old Kiowa. So Kiowa is a 6-year-old girl, and she entered this entrepreneurship contest called Shark Tank, hosted by ABC. And she received $100,000 of investment through the Boo Boo Goo. Now let's look at some more examples in middle and high school students. The current status quo of the Korean education teaching entrepreneurship is even more difficult and more serious. Let's look at other countries. In the United States, Iowa and 10 other states have made entrepreneurship a mandatory class. In United Kingdom, over 90% of British middle and high school students are taught entrepreneurship classes. And lots of European countries are actually distributing entrepreneurship textbooks, and they're educating teachers to teach entrepreneurship in public middle high school. In contrast, in Korea, only 0.2% of middle and high school students are taught entrepreneurship classes. Now, this is another mandatory education program for middle and high school, current status quo of Korea. And you see no entrepreneurship, but Korean students learn a lot of science, and they do learn lots of social studies. Let's move on to the secondary education, which is university and college students, where the situation is even more serious. Now, the #1 university in Korea, Seoul National University, teaches 64 classes a semester related to business. #2, Korea University, teaches 130 classes related to business. And #3, Yonsei, teaches 96 classes related to business administration. And out of these classes, guess how many classes are at least somewhat related to entrepreneurship? None, 2, and 3. Now, this is a very sad fact, considering that in the United States, they provide over 5,000 entrepreneurship classes a semester. And in case of Japan as well, I believe Waseda University and lots of Japanese universities actually have facilities only focused on teaching entrepreneurship. If you look at the survey, in the university students who are actually interested in starting startups, it's over 60%. However, in reality, the ones who are actually doing startups are only 5%. So we believe in order to reduce the gap, in order to teach students not to be fearful or not to be challengeable of these fear of failures, we believe education is essential. So we have to teach entrepreneurial attitude, and we have to teach business knowledge. And when these are met with right chance, we believe the next Korean Steve Jobs could actually be brought out in the future. So Team Sprout has provided 2 solutions to the lack of entrepreneurship spirit in South Korea. First, healthy venture ecosystem. And second, more education, more entrepreneurship camps, more classes on entrepreneurship at the young ages of Korean students. We believe when these 2 solutions are met, we could expect a more bright future of South Korea. Maybe it's not a sprout anymore. Maybe we can expect a flower. Thank you very much.